Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Here to do a review of the new album from East of the Wall, A Neutral Second. East of the Wall, translation lost record, the vinyl I just got. Vinyl Community. This came out a couple weeks ago. It's like June. Yeah, it was the last Friday of June, I think. June 29th? I think so. So I've been listening to it off and on since then, and I really have enjoyed it a lot. East of the Wall, you call them post-metal, prog metal, sludge metal, post-rock, with vocals. A lot of quote-unquote post bands don't have vocals, but I think that was a stereotype in the past. Now it isn't so much. But this is, let's see here. Was this their 5th album? Anyway, let me show it first. It's blue vinyl. Neutral Second. Blue, like, splatter. Obviously, I enjoyed it enough. I bought it on vinyl. And they're a band that it's weird how it's like their best records. They're a little bit like Humphreys McGee and a couple other bands like that, where their best records I really love, but then some of the records are sort of they didn't do that much for me. They just for production, the writing, but it's it's the track list and everything too, and so East of the Wall. I was talking. They're from New Jersey. First introduced to them, I think it was the year it came out. Yeah, their album, A Farmer's Almanac. They were an offshoot of, related to two other bands, Postman Syndrome, especially that one, and Day Without Dawn. I know people that love, especially Postman Syndrome. But Chris Alfano, the bass guitars, he did a lot of it. It's Seth Reams, the drummer. Matt Keys is one of the guitarists. And Matt Lupo. I'm not sure. I know that they've had members come and go. But anyway, so they put out Farmer's Almanac. That was, I think, all instrumental. I have it on vinyl. I'm not sure the condition of the vinyl, unfortunately, through moving and stuff like that. It may have gotten bent, or at least the case. But then, that was in 2008, 2000, they put out a record, Resentment, which I struggled with because the production, the cymbals clipped constantly. And I saw them here, I want to say, around that time, and I may have mentioned something to that, and then they came out with, in 2011, The Apologist. I almost thought that some of that was my doing, or something, not my specific doing, but I somehow impacted that title. But The Apologist was fantastic. They used vocals, a lot of screams, a lot of clean vocals. It wasn't universally praised, but it was kind of in the vein of like Between the Buried in Me in some way, or Mastodon and Burst. And I mean, it was fantastic. Finished in my top, at least the top 10, maybe it's still in my top 10, top 5 albums from 2011. It's real, one of the best metal albums. It's, they're using a lot of screaming or sludgy vocals, those metalcore, but a lot of textures, a lot of dynamics, a lot of riffs, a lot of somewhat technical riffs. So they put out 2 or 3 records since then, and I haven't gotten into either Redaction, Artifacts, and that was from 2013, and then NP Complete was 2019, and I was really excited about, especially NP Complete, but I think I listened to it like 2 or 3 times. It just, So then this one came out, and again, East of the Wall, they have a history. There's those 2 records, Farmer's Almanac and The Apologist, I loved. And what can I say? They kind of hit it. They, in some ways, hit it out of the park with this. I mean, that whole cliche. I've listened to it now maybe about 8 times, 7 or 8 times. And I will say that it's not a perfect record. But in the scope of comparing records, albums from 2023, it's pretty high up there. It might be my second favorite record this year. it's kind of less is more in a lot of ways. It's more varied. There's more clean vocals probably than any other record they've had of the records with all the vocals. Production's pretty damn good for the most part. There's only one track I'm not crazy about. It's called Autosomal Recessive. It's maybe the longest track. It's like 7 minutes. The beginning of it I like, but it kind of drags a little bit, and it doesn't have something a lot of the other songs have. Now, just getting that out of the way, the highlights for me, I am pretty much focused on my favorite track being the final track, Hegemony's Dilemma. The way they use trumpet, there's some female vocals, and just the way it segues, it's a perfect ending. But, there's a couple of these songs that are like little movements. Spite of Icarus, I believe, is a little movement. It's like a minute and a half. Memento Mori reminds me of Burst. I believe it's Reclamation Rights. Yeah. It's one of these tracks has a very, very much of a Maudlin of the Well section. Not K.O. Dot. Maudlin of the Well. Maudlin of the Well is sort of very quiet, beautiful, pretty, soft sections where the vocals are just almost not whispering, but singing really lightly, and you have just like this atmosphere. Detonator Gauntlet's another, highlight. I mean, I hear the Mars Volta, I hear Mastodon, I hear Burst at points on a lot of this. But it's like it doesn't overstay its welcome, and every track has multiple sections, especially the second half of a lot of these songs. Fawning, which I just enjoy. Unfamiliar Glass Ceiling. So this is a great record. I mean, I've listened to it enough now where I can say it's not like it's sort of there's anything on it that completely grabs me where that's it. This is like the greatest thing they've ever created. But it's like greater than the sum of its parts, and it's 4 stars. If you're going on the 5-star scale, I'm giving it 4 stars. I'm holding to that. I'm not sure how addictive it's going to be by the next few months or the end of the year necessarily, but that shouldn't necessarily matter. It's a very enjoyable record. It's only 41 minutes, so again, some of the records and a lot of records in this kind of style of music can either meander and go on longer. It's like a really well-paced record, other than that one track, that Autosomal Recessive, which, that track may eventually grow on me more, but, yeah, I mean, it's East of the Wall. It's similar to some of their other stuff, including on The Apologist, but then they're bringing in some new things. They use some horns or the trumpet for textures and everything like that, and it flows really pretty well, and it's nice to actually found a metal album. And, is it the heaviest album? I mean, I think they've been heavier. It does, again, or like the last Mastodon album, I actually really got more into than I had in many years. It reminds me in some ways of that last record, but again, it's not like, it's almost more just like heavy progressive rock in some way, or heavy, blues rock. I mean, it is metal at points, but my whole point about in the last few years especially, it's been very spotty for metal for me, for whatever reason. My tastes, or just I haven't heard the right stuff, or a lot of the metal albums I've heard have just not, I haven't been attached to them, and they've meandered and been kind of derivative, whether it be prog metal or whatever other kind of metal, post metal. This was the best, first describe a neutral second as post metal, I guess, but what is post metal? Post rock, it's heavier version of post rock, Russian Circles, the bands like ISIS and The Ocean, people love that. There's a lot of bands that kind of fit sort of in that description of, it's not post-rock, it's like really a little heavier, riffier post-rock. Russian Circles enter to me as like the definitive post-metal album, but the thing is, the Russian Circles after that hasn't even done post-metal. They've been channeling Explosions in the Sky, but anyway. So, yeah, I mean, the track titles are a little odd. Again, my love of Burst, and we may get a Burst album at some point, because I know they've done reunions, and they're effectively a band now. That sort of sludgy, but not excessive sludgy, but at points intense and textured metal that works when you're doing it, whether it's progressive metal, post-metal, whatever you want to call it. When it works, I really love it, but I don't want it to become just slow, doomy. I love a lot of Black Sabbath, but I don't love the bands like Sun O and Boris and Earth, those bands that kind of, There's just one riff that kind of goes along that people just meditate to and just kind of get in a trance from. But this doesn't do that. There's a lot of consistent energy. But so anyway, if you heard the new East of the Wall on the Neutral Second, what are your thoughts? I can give a small update on my health for whatever that's worth. I'm doing a fair amount better. I believe it's some kind of it wasn't a headache from chocolate. It wasn't recurring headaches, but I'm getting headaches still every day, unfortunately. It's been the better part of like 10 days. I'm on one medication specifically for it, an antibiotic. But it's something that I may have got from wearing a mask too tight on my nose and led to that, and maybe wearing sunglasses. When I was at the art show a few weeks ago, I think that's what it sort of catapulted and caused it to sort of become, regular. But I figured it'd run its course. It's not fun. It's like the pinched nerve I have, where it's like you think it's going to get better eventually, and it just still never goes away. But taking the medication I'm taking hopefully is going to make a difference, and just need to know how to like avoid it. Or if I run into it again, I'll treat it. So, but yeah, tomorrow I'm off. I got to take care. I got to bring my grandmother to bring my mother-in-law to the doctor, so I'll have some time. I'm going to probably review the Guess Who's new album and listen to that still a lot and give more details on that. Maybe even the new Dream the Electric Sleep. Been watching Sleeping. Been watching Shrinking, the new Harrison Ford show, which came out a few months ago on Apple Plus. So I've been watching that. Maybe I'll do a review of that once I finish that, but that could be a few weeks from now. I don't know. But the episodes are 30 minutes, 25 minutes, so it's going relatively easy. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and we'll see you next time.